Hello, everyone. This is I think our fourth training in the since the conference, and so I welcome you. What we've tried to adopt is a fairly open format with questions. I'm not suppressing anyone's um, mics or cameras or anything that, but I would ask that you guys mute yourself during the demo unless you're asking a question, just to avoid any background noises. Okay. So as I indicated in my email yesterday, today's presentation is on Link2forms. Now, Link2forms, funny enough, in my opinion, is the easiest Linktivity program to sell. It's not the cheapest, but I think it's the easiest because it has the widest appeal. Uh, Virtually all of our customers are going to have a website, and virtually all of our customers are going to want to gather not only leads from it, but efficient leads from it. So let me just get started here. Okay, so when I talk to the prospects, like any new prospect or any prospect we're thinking of introducing web form technology, I will take a look at their website, and let's just say I'll go to our own website, and I'll go to our contact us page, and I'll scroll down and I'll see this contact page. Now I will look for these kinds of things on people's websites, and sometimes they'll be down here as well. And then you'll see that they come in different forms and shapes as well. But the first thing I'm going to ask them is, where does this information go? Okay, and you'll be quite surprised at how the overwhelming majority of people will tell you that it's just a module that came with our content management system for the website, and it just spits out an email to whomever it's been configured to send it to. So at that point, it's very easy to say, so let me see if I get this picture. Someone submits a form here, some hapless person in your organization will get an email, and they will have to stop whatever they're doing to manually key in that lead, okay, and then assign it to someone, if not follow it up themselves. So the scenario is, the workflow is by definition disruptive, okay, because they're forced to stop what they're doing. So putting it that way to them and saying, does it seem likely that any kind of lead workflow that requires on unerring human intervention is likely going to err at some point, and then you are costing yourself some business? And more importantly, when you say, starting the second quarter of this year, by the way, this feature is built in free with Act Premium Cloud, why would you try to save money by employing something that is inside your website that with no integration? The 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 conversation changes really, really quickly. So for instance, if you can paint a picture where, let's say we want to go to a careers page, and I do apologize, as I apologize during all my presentations for the slow speed of my internet, but let's say here we can have, build in a form, okay, very, very quickly, and have all of, if it's a careers page, have all of the applicants automatically added to Act, okay, instantly, and grouped as well, okay? And then you can even have a section down here where they're uploading your resume. So all of this is happening in a far more efficient way than you could do otherwise, because it's integrating Act. It can trigger follow-up activities. It can group all your applicants for a particular job, whichever. Okay, so that is one great scenario. The next one would be a quote request. I'm just going to see if I can click on this. Perfect. Okay, scenario where, do you guys sell products or services? Would you like to be able to invite people to submit a quote request, provide details of it? Of course they would, right? So they can enter this information, new prospects get added to the database, grouped, segmented, everything. They can provide detailed descriptions of what they're looking for, what their budget is, whatever. They can even set it up where they sign up for the newsletters. And what's different about this is that you can also create opportunities as part of the quote request workflow. Okay. Now, if you're like us, you get service requests. Okay. Same kind of thing where you can build this out. Now, this is kind of a freestanding page. It's not using embedded HTML, but you can get, things like including screenshots, all kinds of things. So, one of the things I was really pleased to hear from Bud was that he's integrated this in. Imagine if you put in a service request, people can include snippets, things like that, automatically goes into his database and triggers a service follow-up. Okay, no entry, no nothing. It will recognize likely that it's an existing contact and not create the contact, but create the follow-up activity. Okay. Now, the other thing is, what if, like us, you go through our pages, we've got all kinds of different products, okay, and we want to have people, submit product inquiries for each one of these. But can you imagine the work it would be to create different forms for every single one? So what you can do with Link2forms is that you can create one form and have it identify what page it's sourced from. Scott, can you mute yourself or do you want me to do it? I'm going to do it for you. Okay. So what that does is, like, let's just say here, I've got, eight products right here, okay, or 9 products right here. I don't want to have to create a form for every single one. So what I can do is I can create the same form, okay, and let's say here, go into an example, okay. Do you have any questions on tables? Well, this is the same form that's included on every single one of my product pages. However, I've created which I'll show you guys in a bit. I've created a little ID source value in the form to have it tell me which page that web form is coming from, that submission is coming from. So I don't have to ask people what the products is or anything tedious, because if it's on the tables page, they're not going to ask about Link2forms. So this allows me, just by creating one little attribute in the form, I can use the same form on any of them, any of the pages. Okay. Now, another thing is that because we have a digital signature feature, you can actually use it for online waivers or non-disclosure agreements. And NDAs I just kind of came up with as an example. But you can create a form here, okay, where they complete it, they read through the terms, okay, and then they can put in a digital signature, okay. Now, think of the amount of cases. I remember, like, even up by our cottage, we've got a thing with I'm trying to think of what the word is, but it's like this big kind of rope castle that the kids climb around. Well, we had to go on with their iPads and sign digital waivers and things like this, just to allow our kids to get up there. So, if anything happened, they wouldn't get sued. This is something that we can kind of build into any kind of liability workflow with your customers. Okay. Now, it doesn't have to necessarily be something like an NDA. It could be anything. Imagine accountants wanting to disclaim certain responsibilities, saying, we're relying on the information that you provided. Lawyers, the same kind of thing. Anything, okay, that would require this, your customers can use this. It would recognize the existing contact, and then if anything did happen, they can go into Act and literally pull up the PDF that they signed and use that in their defense. Okay. And this isn't a cost justification thing, is starting Q2, this will be built into the program. Okay. Now, the other thing that people don't often consider is that you can use this for voting or, taking polls. So let's say that I wanted to create a summary, okay? Or what we do each year is we have the Keystroke Orange Peel Awards, the COPAs, and everyone gets a chance to vote on a particular employee in whatever department. So if I was to go to here, I can scroll down, just show the Let's see if I can find it here. COPA Awards. Okay, I could actually show the award winners in, a report format. Okay, so I can see Albert won this one, Nav won that one, Dwayne. I mean, all of it is broken down statistically. Okay, and to one other thing, just if you're going to use it in this, well, people are going to say, well, what's to stop someone like Michael Kadlub from voting for himself 15 times? Well, he was the inspiration for us implementing a feature that allows you to suppress any duplicate submissions. Okay, so now he is rather well known for coming up with fictitious names, but in this case, we can actually say, here is a survey. We are distributing it to our employees, and we are going to limit it to existing contacts. Okay, and no one can create a duplicate submission. Okay, so Michael in that case isn't able to, create a bunch of fictitious people and add a bunch of votes on his behalf. So this is a unique case that people often don't think about. Okay, the other thing is if you want to have dynamic forms. Now, this is something that people don't often think about, but we are used to having dependencies or wanting dependencies in our fields where, let's say, if you say, I am from Toronto, I want to show only values in the next field relevant to Toronto. Okay. Well, let's see how we do this because we may want to have a form that doesn't look like 15 questions up front. So in this case, we can say, pull out our information here and say, would you like a quote on APC? And I say yes. And suddenly this new question dynamically appears. Great, which APC would you like? APC on the cloud, APC with desktop sync. But watch what happens when I switch to no. Oh, you're not cool enough for APC? Perhaps you would like a Rolodex, a Palm Pilot, an Apple Newton, a Day Runner. Okay. You can have fun with this, obviously, but this is where you have the ability to create dynamic forms or use what I call skip logic. Okay. I don't call it, it's called skip logic. Okay. So, and then as we've seen, we can surface all of these forms in different ways. So if I go here, I can surface them here inside a page using embedded HTML. Now, Bud, you were talking about the shape of your form. Now, obviously, I haven't looked at your website in a bit, but these embedded HTMLs are formatted to use 100% width that you give them. And I'll get into this in a bit, but you can actually set, how many columns it uses, the actual width that it will consume on the page, as well as 100% in terms of vertical height as well. So we'll take the allowed amount of horizontal space and the allowed amount of vertical space. Now, keep in mind, you see here that all of these things are laid out in terms of desktop. These are all responsive. So if you shrink these into a mobile format, okay, come on, a little bit more. Okay, they will stack automatically. Okay, not quite enough here. Okay, they will stack automatically so that they will work in mobile format. Okay, so when you're walking people through this in terms of how it could be surfaced, because when you go to, let's say, go to Linktivity, go to Link2forms, and you're talking about the ways in which things can be surfaced, you're talking about here where you've got the, no, that's wrong. Here where you've got the embedded HTML, but here's where I've used all 12 columns. Okay, so it's using the full width of the page. Okay, you can surface it in a light box where it pops up like that. You can surface it as it requests in full page mode. So there's really quite a few options that you can use for this. Okay, and as you saw from from the Contact Us page, you can use the compact design form, which I'll show you in a bit, okay, to allow you to use just say 1 or 2 columns and display it as part of the overall layout, so you don't have like a Contact Us form that consumes more space than needed. Okay, so with that, okay, so we've covered that. Now we've got the ability to customize it, and I'm going to get into a bit of that later. Okay, we've got the hold on. Okay, actually, I'm just going to skip on to the next part. Okay, so as you guys are selling this, it's one thing to know the features, but you're also going to need to know the feature distinctions between both the standard and advanced, and between Link2forms and AMA. So I'm going to cover that next. So the first thing, let me just see here. I'll just make sure I'm mute some people here because I'm good. Oh, good, getting a bit of feedback. Okay, so now let's get into the team exclusive features. So what I wanted to do was just kind of scoot down here on it. For here, just go to linktivity.net, scroll down to forms, and then you can scroll down and to the comparison chart. I'm not going to read off a whole lot. Disregard this column because this product, the light one, won't exist anymore. Okay. So just take a look at the third and or second and third columns. But here is a breakdown. Team exclusive features, which for your purposes are what you're going to use to talk people up from the standard tier, okay, to the professional tier of what will soon be called Act Advantage. Okay, so you've got 3 tiers: the $30 tier, the $45 tier, and the $60 tier. So if you are saying, hey guys, you get the standard tier of Link2forms free included with your APC $30 tier, no problem. But if you want the advanced features, those would include the ability to create follow-ups. Okay, so imagine if someone completes a quote request, you can have an automatic activity appear in Act for yourself to follow up with that person. So that's pretty key, right? I mean, you're going to get an email notification, so it's not like you're going to miss it, and it's going to be added to Act. And if um, so you can immediately look up the person and follow up with them. But the advanced feature will allow you to create that follow-up activity based on whatever configurable options you select, same day, next day, whichever. The other thing that you've got the ability with the team edition or the advanced edition is to create a follow-up for another user. Now, what would be an example of that? Well, since I'm picking on Lubs, an example would be I can create a support request form and then create all of the submissions or configure all the submissions to go to him instead. Okay. In the standard tier, they all go to the record manager. Okay. Also, you've got the ability to assign ownership of that form. So I can create a form for Lubs and then just say, but he's going to be the form owner. So he will get all the submissions. He's going to get all the follow-up activities. He'll get everything. Okay. Also, you'll be able to configure a drip campaign. Okay. Now, some of you may think, well, I could probably do that in a couple of different ways with landing pages. This is far more straightforward, where you can kind of go in here, scroll down to the bottom, and actually just add a bunch of emails following up. So the first one could be thanking them for their submission request or quote request. To follow them, you can have another one go out the next day, telling you a little bit about your products, your company, your services, things like that. And here's where you can schedule the automatic activity. Okay, right here. And what else is there? The ability to create, oh, by the way, oh, you can also have the CC ability. If you want to copy people, this is something we picked up with Link2Quotes, where we wanted to have accepted quotes copied to the office manager, who may not even be a Linktivity user, or may even be a outside person. You can put that in. The CC options are available only for the team edition. Okay. Ability to create opportunities. Opportunities are created in AMA under the complete tier. So people are paying $200 a month to have that feature, whereas up here you can create it with just the team edition. Okay, which in this case is going to cost $15 more per user above the $30 tier. Okay. Okay, so then what is the last one? Um, Also, with the team tier or the middle tier, the what will soon be called the professional tier, okay, you can actually create an image library with quotes, with forms, with surveys, and share those same images across all the programs. And the last one is the link to shrink integration, which I'm not going to lean too heavily into just because I don't know how that's going to end up looking in the APC setup. Okay, link to shrink may end up being available to everyone. So before I get into the demo though, the biggest question that I got asked right from the very beginning, and something that we're all going to have to be familiar with, is what is the difference? Why would I go with Link2forms versus AMA landing pages? Okay, and I get that. It was something that we certainly dealt with a lot, and in the beginning we just said, hey, look, it's 1/10 the cost and it's easier to use. Okay, and while that's true, there's actually a lot more reasons. I'm just going to pull over this quick Word document. So easy to learn, certainly. We have also, as I've shown in past presentations, we've got the ability to merge in and pass through what's called the contact ID. So I can send out a link to a form via merge mail, okay? And that merge mail basically concatenates the contact GUID with the form so that it creates a personalized link. So if I send it out to Jill Gibson, for instance, she will click on it and it will pre-populate her contact information. Why is that good? It makes it easier and more likely that people will complete it. And it's also leveraging what I think is a reasonable technical expectation these days. Okay. Limit to existing contacts only. I gave you guys an example earlier where if I'm trying to construct a poll, I may want to limit the submissions to existing contacts and not have someone like Lubs create a bunch of fictitious contacts just for giggles. Okay. This allows me to limit it. The other thing is, again, with Lubs, preventing him from voting for himself 52 times. This allows me to, just with a simple checkbox to prevent multiple submissions. If you have reason for security purposes to enforce email verification, where it's like, please, before you submit this, confirm your email. Okay, they click on it, it will send an email to that person and they will have to click on that to confirm the email and then they can complete the form. That's something that obviously exists only with Link2forms. Identify page source. I talked about that example before where I can use one product inquiry form and put it on every single product page. Okay, that's only available in Link2forms. No skip logics with dependency questions. I showed you an example of that where you say yes to one thing and one question will display. If you select no, a different question will display. Okay, so you can really have dynamic space-saving forms. Now, having different answers for, having different follow-up questions for each one may seem, maybe less compelling versus having one question that will jump you right down to where it will just say, okay, here's the last thank you for submitting. So you're not asking a whole sequence of questions to people that by their very answer have shown no interest in. Okay. More flexible submission options as Link2forms records all responses to histories. So what I mean by that is both products will allow you to write answers to the fields, okay, of ACT, but only Link2forms allows you to write, a detailed compilation to the history of that contact. So you can look at the history and see, oh, here's all the answers to this on this particular day for this particular question. Okay, so you don't have to worry about competing field answers or things being overwritten quite so much. Plus, when you're using things like star rankings or sliders, things like that, the answers look far more intuitive. Okay, I showed you the digital signature. File uploads. Okay, in the case of for career pages, being able to use file uploads to include a resume, or in case of support requests, including screenshots. That's something that is pretty clearly obvious, or important, I should say. Now, Link2forms also provides graphical and statistical reporting results, whereas AMA just provides flat data results. So just to kind of show you the difference between the two, if I was to go into here, let's go back down to the COPAs. Okay. Okay, go to the COPAs. Okay, whereas here we get the statistical results, the rankings, the percentages, everything. Whereas AMA is just going to show you data like this. Okay, not obviously like this, but really flat data, rows and columns. So this is obviously far more intuitive, far more instantly useful to you, and this is available only in Link2forms. Okay, so before I jump, any questions about what I've covered so far? Okay. So with that, let's get into creating a form. Okay. Now I'm going to go into one that we've got, and I'm just going to quickly go through the options. Oh, my very bad internet. Should have some Jeopardy theme music here on standby, or just ask questions every time I'm about to switch to pages here. Okay. So I'm going to just scroll down and let's do, okay, let's go to, let's just use a referral form. Okay. Okay. So obviously at the very top, you've got all the different options. We'll cover them individually. This is the binary on off option. This is where you can categorize them. Okay. As you see, we have a lot of forms. So if I'm, looking at them, I want to be able to maybe segment them or group them. Okay. UI language, you can imagine this is something a bit more relevant to us than maybe some of the other people on the call. Here's where we give it the name. We can confirm the custom URL. I can say referral form and say validate. Yep, it's available. So now when I click on save, that URL is preserved. Okay. I can add in a form image. Okay, I can add in introductory text. Now, the introductory text will obviously be a preface to your entire survey, so you can explain the purpose of it. The footer text, I like to suggest that that's used for disclaimers. So, you may want to put at the bottom, if this information will go directly into our database, you consent to do so, so on and so forth. Column count, obviously, if you see two fields side by side, that's going to support 2 columns. You can do 3 columns, you can do 1 column, whichever. This is allowing you just the layout options. Hide page title, hide Linktivity branding. I'm the form manager. Here's the closing text. So this will be your answer page. Okay. And if you don't want to use this, you can enter in a URL here, so that it actually, once it's completed, it can go to an answer page in your website that you've got configured maybe for general purposes. Okay. Now, here is where you've got very, very simple checkbox options. So allow passing in contact ID to skip filling in contact details with mail merge. So as I said, and I'll show you this in a bit, where you can create a mail merge product. Now, before I get you guys thinking too much specifics about the mail merge, we are hoping before this year is out, hopefully before this quarter is out, before next quarter is out, that we can build in the ability to pass the contact ID through AMA emailing. Okay, that's not, we don't have a specific date for that, but that's front and center of my backlog feature requests. But for now, we've got mail merge for ACT, and I'll show you how you can just create a field that concatenates the contact GUID with the form ID, and then when they click on it, it pre-populates their information. Existing contacts only, make history private. This would be useful if people are submitting sensitive data. What I would do is if I'm taking an internal survey, okay, who's the favorite employee, okay, I would make that history private so people would have the confidence that only the record manager is going to see it. Prevent multiple submissions, I've used that. Require email verifications, I've covered that. I wanted to put in require CAPTCHA verification for every form, but I found that I had a few customers that were using forms internally as part of their internal workflow, and they didn't want their employees to have to go through the CAPTCHA verification. So we made it enabled by default, but it can be disabled. Please tell your customers, do not have any internet facing forms that have CAPTCHA disabled. And if they do insist on it, make sure that it's existing contacts only. Otherwise, they're going to have bots hit their forms and they're going to have garbage throughout their database. So if they're going to clear this, make sure it's this is enabled. Okay. Attach a submitted form in PDF. I used an example earlier where if you're using a disclaimer or an NDA or something along those lines, that digitally signed form would automatically be attached to the contact record. Okay. Copy submissions to, I've got two different emails here. Assign group, assign contacts to group. So in this case, every single person that's completes this form will be added to a group. Now, obviously, you have the option with AMA to build workflow that is triggered on that. Okay, so if you've got list sync, people will list sync will check every single day to see if there's new members, and it can send them out a separate kind of campaign or drip. Okay, but that's an easy use case. Once you click on this, then it will automatically schedule calls or follow-ups or whatever. Obviously, I say follow-ups because you can select any number of things. And then here is where you can add the drips. And here's all of the different drip emails that we've got. And let's just say act for mail. Here's what it looks like. And I can set up a sequence of these things and daisy chain them out like an activity series based on the anchor date of when it was submitted. Okay, and here's some of the merge fields that you can integrate. Okay, so let's go back here. I have Starlink, by the way, for those that wonder why it's so slow. Let me see if I've got any questions here. Okay, so Karen asks, can you do drip emails with just Link2forms, or does customer need to have AMA set up? As you've just seen, it's not an either or, you can do both. Okay, if you use the group feature and segment submitters into a group, you can trigger an AMA campaign, but you can also do it manually with what I've shown you here. Okay, so let me scroll down. Okay, and go back to the act for mail. Okay, here's where I've got one with a picture, and you can see here's the introductory text, closing text. Okay, what else is there? I think that's it with the email. So let's go up to the top one. Okay, now this section here, I believe, let me just, no, it doesn't, it's just for here. So this section here displays how you can embed this information, okay, in a page. So here is a link. So the link would be, like I showed you on that one page where you click on it and it pops up either in a light box or in a separate full page. But if you want to use embedded HTML, basically it gives you the text. You see here, bud, where it says 100%. Okay, that means it's going to adapt to whatever width you give it. Okay, so if I was to go here go into our web page. Okay. And I'm going to go in here. Let's just go into this one. I haven't used this one in a while. Okay. I can click on add elements, and I can say, in my case, you may, if you've got WordPress, see iframe. The same thing here is in Joomla called raw HTML. So I can click on here, and this is all I do. Okay, here, boom, paste it in. And what's that going to look like? Well, let's go to the top here. Page layout. Oops. Okay. Wrong screen. Wrong screen. Please come back. Great. Okay, so let me come back again. Okay, go into here in the free trial. Preview is what I meant to click. Okay, and now I've got the form inside this. And you can see, but here it's taken the whole page. Okay, now let's drag this module here, grab the handle, bring it down to this one. Okay. Now, if any of you guys have done any kind of web design using content management systems, the rows, the width is always divisible by 12. Okay. So here to here is 12 columns wide. Here to here is 12 columns wide. So you can subdivide any column into additional 12 columns. So this here, if I was to actually look at the column widths, okay, this is 4 by 8. So this section here is 8 columns wide, and this is 4 columns wide on the other side. But I'm only concerned about this one. I'm going to click on save, go back, and you can see it's automatically adjusted. Okay, now I've got quite a bit of layout. I'm just kind of throwing it in here. So there's a fair bit of page elements here that looks like it's designed to overlap. So as you can see, I just picked the page randomly. Okay, but this allows you to kind of insert it in any way you want, and it will occupy whatever space. Just to kind of show you, if I was to pick a, let's just say enable this one, show. Okay, I am going to actually, let me just go add. Okay, where is it? Hold on. Yeah, this may not have been the nicest page to do here. Okay, so let me, okay, add, you know what, never mind. I'm not going to screw around with this, but you can see how you can drop them in, and depending on, if I wanted to go here and say columns and make this 6 by 6, so it would shrink it even further. Come on now. Oh, good grief. Hold on. Okay.
Ken, Bronwyn speaking.
Yeah, Brian.
Can we access all of these templates? Are they part of this, or do we have to build these all?
You have to, yeah, all of those are actual production forms that we've used. So they're not accessible to you, but you're also going to see they're pretty easy to create as well.
Are
So I
you
wouldn't
able
call
to
it,
do any transfer to us rather than us all rebuilding the same thing?
um, we really can't, because there's one, if there's anything that's linked to fields, those would break because they're not fields in your database. So,
Okay, thank you.
but I think you'll find that generally this is pretty easy to use, but I just wanted to demonstrate how you can surface you know, an embedded HTML. It's just by putting it in an iframe or a raw HTML object.
Thank you.
Okay, so back here, we'll go to question, or we'll go to contacts. So here's one of the things that I wanted to make really, really super easy is to add fields to the database. Most of them are going to be the same over and over again. So here's the primary fields right off the bat. So with these simple radio buttons, you can enable a whole bunch and create really easy forms for whatever your purpose is. Now, one thing I advise people, depending on the purpose of the form, if someone is filling out a job application, you can ask them add as many fields as you like. But if you're trying to harvest survey results, then obviously you don't want to create too high of a barrier to entry. Okay. So, and then you can add fields and then map all the results. Okay. Here, I'm not going to get into that. Biggest thing hit. Oh, come on. Stop it. Not on top of my game today here. Let's go for mail. Okay, let's go to questions. So I mentioned earlier that this provides a lot of flexibility for question types. So you can see here, now this may answer a little bit of what you were hoping for, Bronwyn, is that we automatically provide a bunch of sample questions. Okay, so here's like, um, this isn't a question, this is more of a text display here. Um, Here is a sample dropdown. Here is a sample open-ended or memo field. Here is a sample checkbox. Now, I did have someone that need to be reminded, an ACC that shall remain nameless, that was very frustrated in that they put they put a checkbox field and made it mandatory. And then they got very frustrated that people didn't have to check it before completing the form. As most of you guys have probably already figured out, a checkbox, whether it's checked or unchecked, is still a valid answer. Okay, so by putting if you want to have something that indicates yes, no, like I have read these terms indicate yes, and that is an affirmative that will allow them to complete the form, then don't use a checkbox. Use a yes, no. Okay, yes, no in terms of a drop down, standard drop down, yes, no. Okay, now creating a yes, no, or creating a drop down is as simple as entering the value and hitting return. Okay, that's it. Now I've done quite a few of these webinars, so I'm not going to get too much into the granularity of how to create a drop down, but they're pretty obvious. Now, if I put in input required here, like I did here, okay, and this was a checkbox, as I said, checked or unchecked, it's still an input. Okay, so just warn your customers accordingly. Okay, now this allows you to surface a introductory question that it doesn't go at the top, but could be right within the list of questions. Okay, and it allows you to move things around, so you can add things like you know, sections, empty spaces, things like that. So you can play around with the layout depending on the columns. The only thing that I'm going to give you a tip on is if you want to create a dependency question, okay? And let me just show you what that might look like. Okay, I'm just going to just trash that. Okay, so let's say I want to create a dependency question. And here is the question dependency. Now, obviously, I don't have any, so I'm going to say this. Um, how would you describe the taste? Well, I'm going to say the dependency questions are going to be which have you tried, and I'm going to say apple. Okay, I could say all of them or half of them. Now, if I click on here and I enable these questions, then if I go to preview here, okay, which of the following fruits have you tried? I'm going to select apple, okay, and what else is here? Oh, That could maybe, is it all of them? Hold on. Let's just say save. Okay. 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 Why is it not working? Oh, it's a memo field. Can't use it as a memo field. Okay. Um, if you can put in another drop down that would then provide you another list, like I showed you guys earlier. Forget what that one was. I think it was yeah, it was this one where no provided you different answers. Okay. It's got to be intuitive, right? Okay. So now let's go back here. So this is where you would configure it. And then, oh, I see. Oh, good grief. Okay. So let's put in, okay, there we are. Now the next question will appear. Okay. I'm teaching, but learning, clearly learning as we go. Okay. So that is where you can configure these questions. Okay, hide if answer is not met. So that's what we call skip logic, creating those dynamic conditions so that you can make it a little bit more personalized based on their answers. Okay.
Ken, Ron,
Yep.
are
Yep.
you saying you put a second field in and that's where, like, let's say you were selling a car, the first
Yep.
one would be the make, and you stick another field in and that has all the models. It's like cascading drop
Exactly.
down.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, their cascading drop downs is the perfect way to express it from a field perspective. Okay.
Okay, brilliant.
Okay, so then the next one we've got is the appearance. So this is what we call the quick formatting ways so that people can kind of immediately adapt a theme, okay, depending on how it's used. So for instance, and I'm going to keep picking on Bud, this format would be good for a full page, half page format. But if I use the compact, this would be good for the home page, right? Or sorry, the contact us page where it's a single column, okay? Fitting in here. Now, why? Well, one, all the field labels are inside the fields, okay? Grayed out in halftone. So it's going to take up uh, a lot less space, okay? There is also options, other space saving options, some of which I don't remember right now, okay, between the two. Also, things like the contact us header and the questions header, all the headers are removed in the compact us section. So there's lots of space saving options there that are really, really useful. Okay. Customized style further allows you to change the color of the background, the borders, the buttons, you name it. Opportunities, um, this allows you to obviously create an opportunity. And why do we have these fields here? Well, you may want to create a formulaic naming convention, based on the form name, the submission date, the contact, the company, whichever, so that you don't have to keep, like, you recognize where that opportunity was created from, okay, and it follows along a certain naming convention. Okay, and here's where you set the process, the stage, estimated close date, so on and so forth. Okay, but think about how easy this is compared to when you built a landing page with the $200 a month product complete. Configuring this extra option. Okay, this is one of those things that are team exclusive that you can basically click here and within 30 seconds have that option enabled. Okay, now webhooks. I tried to prepare an answer for this, um, but I just got so deep into the weeds that I'm just going to say webhooks is an option that allows you um, or allows developers additional options. Basically, when someone submits a form, that person is brought to a closing page, which can be customized by the closing page URL option. Okay. And then behind the scenes, it does all these submission process, uploading the form to Act History, sending notifications by email, blah, blah, blah. So there's all kinds of different scripting options that you can do with this. But this is obviously a small audience. Okay, so if you've got a customer with a web developer that wants to enhance this further, it's you can tell them that they've got this club in their bag and they can, you know, enable all kinds of additional um, scripting as part of the forms. Okay, so that's how easy I led off on that Word document here. Easy to learn. Okay, remember general. Come on now. Let's wait for this to come back. Okay, so general, we're just quickly enabling, we're giving it a name, we're adding introductory text, footer text, selecting the options. Most of you guys will probably just go with the defaults, okay? And then you can choose the workflow afterwards or not, okay? A lot of you guys will go with the default fields, and then you've got questions, okay? Now, just to show you the different question options, you've got standard text, basically a character field. Open-ended, a memo field. Drop-down, self-explanatory. Checkbox, checkbox. Number, date, slider. Okay, a slider. I think I showed you guys a slider and a rating scale. File upload, signature, and hidden. Okay, now when it's hidden, now, what this is going to do is it's if they are entering this form, they're filling out this form. So let's say that you've got a customer feedback form. You can actually have it write to a field that or inform you that they've completed this particular form. Okay. And then you can look up the field results separately. But they wouldn't see that on the form, but you would see it in the results and have it written to the database. Okay. Let me just mute. Okay. So I think that the case for ease of use is pretty straightforward because I mean it's great to think, hey, we can, you know, insert ourselves in a you know, in between a customer and you know the publishing of web forms, but that's not a great relationship if the product you know makes that the role of us a necessity based on its complexity. Wouldn't we like to sell something that where we can help surface it, okay, and provide a much broader range of services rather than just simply, hey, you've got to hire me to surface a landing page, any kind of landing page, regardless of complexity. This allows you to create one. I've literally made a form in like 1 to 2 minutes. Okay, if it's a basic form, just grabbing contact fields or signing up for a newsletter, I can do that really quickly, and that's something that you literally can't say with any other web form product that I've seen. Okay, so we're coming towards the end of the hour, so let me just see if there's any questions. Let me we'll open the mics up, see if there's any questions right now. Bronwyn, did you have a question?
I do. I have I have a client. They do organizing houses and relocations, and they've got
Mm-hmm.
lots of forms on their webpage.
Mm-hmm.
They've also got two companies. So
Mm-hmm.
I've set up a second AMA domain. You know, we pay that extra
Mm-hmm.
fee for their second company.
$600,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, in Australia it's a bit high, but that's all right, 720.
It,
Um,
it should be.
I
You've got drop bears.
exactly. We've got to get rid of
Yeah.
those drop balls.
Yeah.
Um, on I'm my This is my question. I would go to every website page they have an inquiry form, and I would
Mhm.
sort of snapshot that. Or is there a better way that I could copy even what they've got there and paste it into here? Because it's probably kind of
There isn't a migration path other than the manual one that you could probably visualize.
okay.
I had someone yesterday. I think this is what they were asking me. They asked me if they can, you know, upload PDFs to Link2forms and have it converted into it. I know what they were asking me, but you know, it was kind of the opposite direction. They wanted to use the output of a form to create the input of a form. So I had to
Mm,
gently suggest no, but you know there isn't a migration. You can't take things from another either from landing pages or WooForms or anything else like that. You're just going to have to construct it using the tools, and copy and paste the text is about the only way that you're going to save time.
And this would then send them an email, would it? So they would
Oh yeah,
know about.
oh yeah. Every single form, regardless of tier, will notify a submission. Now, one of the things that I haven't mentioned is that you've got different security options. So one of the things that we did, I showed you the checkbox here attached in PDF format, but we have a number of medical clients where people are submitting sensitive medical information. Well, they don't want that sensitive information being transmitted in plain text um, through an email. So this is where you can where is it? Make history. I think there is another option here, right here. Include submission details in the email. It is enabled by default, but when you clear this, then the 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 user will only get an email including the notification and not anything else. Okay, so none of the answers will be included. Now the submitter will also get the same email. So you can imagine, someone filling out something, sensitive medically or personally. They're not going to want to see that come in plain text. So this is a simple checkbox that they can clear to make sure that that information isn't transmitted.
Mhm. So
Okay.
so basically, I look at their form, I build their form. Where am I installing this software? Because they're an Act Premium
There's no,
Cloud client.
there is no software. There's no software at all. I mean, this is part of the Linktivity, right? When you go here and you go to the web API, you do this one configuration. Okay. And by the way, once it's entered into Act Advantage in Q2, then you won't even have to do this. Okay, because it's going to have the APC database information, credentials, everything. The product will be enabled, okay, as part of the account fulfillment, and all of this information will automatically be pre-populated as it's passed down from myact.com.
I
Okay.
do apologize, I was a little bit late, but where do you start? Where do you get to this?
Oh, you go into, click on my account, and then I mean, my information is cached, so I automatically go in, but I would get a login, and then you go into Link2forms here.
And what are you going into from the get-go? Are you going to a web page for
I'm going to
Keystroke?
linktivity.net.
Linktivity.net. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks. Good,
Okay. If
good
there's
talk.
no more questions, guys, I am going to wrap it up. It is a Friday afternoon. We're about 20 minutes over. Thank you very much for your time. I hope this was of value to you all. Take care.
Thanks,
Excellent,
Ken.
as
Bye bye.
always. Thank you
Bye
so
bye.
much. Brilliant.